Hi, this is JR. I'm going to be talking with you now about logical psychology. And the purpose of sharing this first is to support a recovering from the terrified arrogance of mainstream hysterias. So you may be wondering, what these words terrified arrogance and mainstream hysteria mean. You might not know that there's an issue to be recovered from. So we'll explore what this could mean, as well as the term logical psychology. In fact, in this presentation we're not going to focus too much on the term logical psychology. However, you will begin to be exposed to the reasoning of a logical psychology. We'll demonstrate what is meant by that. So I'm assuming that you're able to see the pictures that go along with the script that I'll be reading here. I'll be making reference to the pictures as we go. Logical psychology, recovering from the terrified arrogance of mainstream hysterias. That means more than one. Not just one mainstream hysteria, but all of them, however many there are that are relevant to you. So have you ever noticed that a sequence of words was intriguing to you? Maybe they were moderately unfamiliar, as in notably different from what you would expect. Sometimes we may notice that most of our interactions and conversations seem very predictable. Sometimes we may notice that it's like the same thing over and over and over, and sometimes we may notice that it's like the same thing over and over. It's kind of predictable, could even get boring eventually. We form expectations based on those experiences, right? Conversations, interactions. Eventually we form expectations. Even the smallest children eventually form expectations. Based on what? We form expectations based on noticing consistent patterns over and over and over and over and over. It's pretty simple. So we develop a set of expectations and then, naturally, innocently, presume that life is going to continue to operate according to whatever patterns that we have learned to expect. However, we may not even be aware of our presumptions, and certainly it is possible that at some point reality will differ from our expectations. It is possible. Here's an image of a view from inside of a vehicle as it approaches an intersection, a red light. Oh, better be cautious, there's a red light ahead. So if you can drive a car, then you can imagine approaching a busy intersection with a red traffic light facing you. Imagine that you're heading north, and as you get close to the intersection and slow down, you notice that there's very heavy traffic flowing across the four-way intersection, from the left to the right and the right to the left, along the lanes that are going east and west as you're going north. So that traffic going in the opposite direction. As you're almost to the intersection, you are probably already expecting the light to change from red to green pretty soon, like you've been watching it be red for a while. So you're probably expecting it to change to green pretty soon, and finally it does. You haven't even quite gotten to the intersection yet. You've just been approaching it. And if there are no vehicles ahead of you in your lane, then you can expect to safely enter the intersection, since the light is now green, right? Now in the next picture we see a green light, but also warning emergency vehicle in kind of a yellowy orange color there. So the light's green though. The light is green. You expect the flow of cross traffic to stop, right? Because now you have a green light going north, so the east-west traffic, you expect it to stop, right? However, do you presume that it has stopped, in fact, just because you're facing a green light, or do you just expect it to stop? Or do you presume? Or do you expect it? Or do you presume? Do you look to check before you proceed into the intersection? Do you look to the left and the right and the east and the west and to see, is there cross traffic? Is there any other cross traffic coming? Do you check? Or do you just presumptively, just go ahead into the intersection? Next image, we have a little animated image with the flashing lights of a fire truck, and it's actually got the a warning light, a white warning light at the top of that image to let people know there is an emergency vehicle approaching the intersection. So, did I mention that as you were approaching that intersection, as you're going north, right, approaching that intersection, you heard a bunch of loud sirens and saw flashing lights, blue lights, maybe some red lights, and the heavy flow of traffic so far, I didn't mention this earlier, this might have been relevant, I don't know, you didn't ask, right? The heavy flow of traffic going back and forth from east to west across that intersection, that included so far 2 huge fire trucks and 4 police cars, plus now that you look over to the right, over to that direction, you can see an ambulance coming. An ambulance with, sirens and flashing lights and stuff, and it's a pretty big vehicle, and it's coming pretty fast, and it does not look like the driver is planning to stop, even though the traffic light in their direction is apparently red. Another big image of the siren lights of the red and the blue. And again, the traffic light ahead of you is clearly green. You expected it to turn green as you were approaching, right? Eventually, you were expecting it to turn green, and eventually it did. And you may have expected the flow of cross traffic to stop. By the time you saw the green traffic signal, you're kind of expecting that the flow of cross traffic would stop by then, but now that you look, you can see the ambulance speeding towards the intersection from that direction over there, and in fact, it has crossed over from the normal lanes that it would be in, and it's gone into what would normally be the oncoming traffic lanes, but those lanes are empty at this point. But it's actually coming in to those incoming traffic lanes, speeding, and wow, that's, if we were to turn right over here, then that'd be the lane you would turn into, and that's the lane that the ambulance is coming really fast in. So just be aware that the light is green, though. The light that's facing you, right? Your northbound lane, that's green light, okay? So you can see the ambulance speeding. You can see the ambulance has crossed out of the normal eastbound lane into an empty westbound lane, right? The other direction, but it's still going eastward, but it's just in the westbound lane. So your traffic light is green, and since it's green, you can expect it to be safe to go ahead and turn right, correct? You can go ahead and turn right into the lane that has the speeding ambulance coming right at where you would be, right? You can. Is there? I mean, the light is green, and then there's a picture of an ambulance right next to a vehicle that's been in a collision. Wow, a collision. That's crazy. That's horrible. I can't. Ooh, that'd be. Must have been some. I don't know whose fault it is, but why is there a collision right there? It's in my way. Okay, so it can can cause traffic delays. So you can safely presume that whatever you expect is always what will happen precisely, right? Or no? Whatever you expect is always what will happen, right? Even though you see the ambulance and you hear the ambulance, you could go ahead and turn now with plans to, in the case of any, unforeseen or unforeseeable complications, you could have plans now that you would use the excuse that you had expected the lane to be empty. And because you expected it to be empty, you were sincere when you turned into the lane, and you saw that the ambulance was in the lane, but you had previously expected it to be empty, so you're justified in taking actions based on your expectations, right? Just because they were your expectations, right? You're justified, right? Or is it logical to double check? If you know that something's just an expectation, then is it logical to occasionally double check to make sure that your expectations conform to reality. Now, because some people, when there's a difference between expectations and reality, they will say, something's wrong with reality, and my expectations are sacred, and we should change reality to fit my expectations. That's the kind of thing that some people might say. It's an interesting thing, and of course, in some cases, saying that can make a difference, or taking some action can make a difference. There are certain kinds of realities that can be changed, even easily. I could change my shirt. I could change my facial expression. I could change my tone of voice and my pitch. There's a lot of things that I could very easily change. And then there's other things that wouldn't be quite so easy to change. But as far as this ambulance approaching in that one lane, you can safely presume that whatever you expect is always what will happen, right? And even though you see the ambulance, you could go ahead and turn now with plans to later use the excuse that you had expected that lane to be empty. So it wasn't my fault. After all, what could be safer than turning now when not only do you clearly have a green light, but there's also an ambulance nearby in case of any unexpected collisions? See? What a safe time to turn right. Green light and an ambulance nearby. And the next image is that's a sheriff's car. It's been in a collision. Yikes. Right into the driver's area there, huh? Right into the driver's side. And the door of the driver, where the driver would be, huh? So in case you did not notice, I've just been demonstrating the difference between expectations and presumptions. Having an expectation does not require making a presumption. You can expect the traffic intersection to be empty and safe, but you don't have to presume and just proceed as if it, just because you expect it to be empty and safe, it is empty and safe. You don't have to presume. You can just expect the traffic intersection to be empty and safe. But you could still know that it's just an expectation, so you actually can take an action or a series of actions to verify your expectations. You could double check your expectations, right? You could double check reality to make sure that reality is conforming to your expectations, because your expectations are just little conveniences for you, for simplicity. They're not a replacement for looking to see if there's traffic coming in that lane, right? You want to actually look, right? And it's useful to, you see the lights turn green, then it's a good time to look, because you can expect that the traffic flow across has stopped, but you don't have to presume it stopped. You can expect it to stop, and then based on that expectation, look to confirm that there's no further traffic coming, and that it is safe to enter the intersection, and go ahead and enter when it's safe. You could make the presumption that your expectation is accurate without checking, but you could also check the actual traffic. In both cases, you have an expectation. In one case, you would be making a presumption and acting on that presumption without verifying it, and that can be dangerous. So it could be an interesting subject for us to consider. What are other expectations and presumptions that we might be operating on? Even presumptions about communication or language or speech, intention of other people. With presumptions, you may not know that you have an expectation or presumptions at all. You may have an unexamined or undistinguished presumption. You may have an unconscious presumption. So you may just presume that the current situation is basically identical to all previous situations, and so you can safely take action presumptively, right? Well, that can be a source of problems. To presumptively take action with the presumption that whatever's happening now is no different from things that you're completely familiar with from past experience. To be presumptive like that could be called naivety. Naivety. So
then this weekend in the cool.
So we do have a yellow traffic light right there. So the yellow light, it tells us, be cautious, slow down, look around carefully, be cautious. So it can be a source of problems to presumptively take action with the presumption that the immediate future is going to simply be a repetition of things that we're already familiar with. We're never going to have to learn anything new. There's never going to be any surprises. That's presumptiveness, even naivety. I mean, we know from past experience that occasionally there are surprises. Even frequently there can be surprises. There can be big surprises. So, what kind of problems can arise if we take action presumptively? Well, for instance, you could get into a head-on collision with a speeding ambulance and then suffer serious injuries or even instant death. Or you could barely avoid a collision. The vehicles don't collide, right? And then you might get embarrassed and then yell at the stupid driver for doing something that you did not expect, driving into the intersection in disregard of the traffic light. It was, because you had the green light in your direction, right? So that other driver violated not just your expectations, but also your presumptions. They revealed your lack of attentiveness to the actual flow of traffic. In that case, if you had been the one to actually advance into that intersection and then collide or even just nearly collide with the ambulance. They just revealed your lack of attentiveness to the actual flow of traffic. You may tell the story for weeks of that stupid punk who was driving the ambulance without regard for the red traffic light and traffic laws, and plus he was going in the wrong direction, he was in the wrong lane, and he surprised you, and that is not what you expected. And you do not like surprises. They can be embarrassing and dangerous, and you almost got in a wreck. What an idiot driver, punk. Gosh, there's a red traffic light right there in the image to remind you of what a red traffic light looks like. And what do? Well, that driver should have stopped. That's what he should have done. Or she, or whatever. That driver, the other one that's, the one that's not me, that's the one that's at fault for this near collision. So you tell the story over and over to the other inmates in the county jail, because that's where you are now that you've had this sequence of events. And anyway, eventually you go to the court, and you get to tell the story again to explain why you were justified in doing what you did, why you entered the intersection, and why you're so pissed off at that stupid other driver, right? Oh, wow. So there's a picture of somebody in the back of a sheriff car. Looks like they might have just got arrested. When the prosecutor refers to your behavior as a crime, you could be offended and yell threats of violence against that stupid punk prosecutor too. Don't they know what's right? So you're in court, you're there because, I don't know, these people don't seem to understand how justified you were in what you did, and then the prosecutor is referring to your behavior as a crime, and that's, isn't that insulting? Don't you people know the Constitution of the United States of America? Don't you people know the right from wrong, justice from injustice? You're supposed to be justice people, huh? You don't even know, do you? You could demand, this is what I would do if I was there, I would demand that the bailiff arrest that stupid punk prosecutor for what, we would, any reasonable person would call their presumptuous and rude display of contempt, insanity, and mental illness, and total ignorance of right and wrong, and a lack of empathy, and an unethical finger pointing. I don't like all that finger pointing. That's what I'm talking about right there. Punk, stupid punk prosecutor. Huh. Wonder if they even went to law school. So, now, eventually, just fast forward ahead a little bit. So eventually, the judge says, okay, it's your time to tell your story. Ah, yes, vindicated at last. As you finally get to tell your story, you anticipate the sympathy of the judge and the jury and even the prosecutor. And all of these errors are going to be corrected once you tell people what really happened. I don't think the prosecutor really understands. That's why he's talking about crime. He doesn't really understand what happened. Maybe he's missing the thing about the ambulance was in the wrong lane, and it was, you had a green light. You had a green light right there. So you finally get to tell the story. There's a picture of somebody at the, microphone in a courtroom, going to tell their story, and maybe those other people just do not understand yet how you were doing the right thing, and the idiot driving the ambulance is the one who deserves to be in jail, and along with the prosecutor probably. And you're just going to tell them and straighten out this whole little misunderstanding of theirs, because I don't even know why I'm here. Your only friend in jail, by the way, said that you should expect an apology letter from these people and probably a few $1,000s to be awarded to you for the emotional distress that this injustice to you has caused. All the other inmates, besides your only friend, all the other inmates laughed when you told your story, which is obviously evidence that they're intellectually inferior to you. Who wants to be friends with people as dumb as them, right? Oh, I think that might be the picture right there of your only friend from jail. So you think of your one friend who has agreed with all of your presumptions, and of course you consider their agreement to be a sign of intelligence, because only intelligent people, as far as you know, agree with your own presumptions about how, this is a misunderstanding and the person driving the ambulance was the one at fault. They should be in jail, not you. I mean, what did you do wrong? It was a green light. So finally someone understands you, right? This other person that you were talking, your one friend in jail, they finally understand you. And isn't that awesome? Because they agree with you and they understand your perspective, and they don't they don't laugh at you, and they don't ask the wrong, they don't ask insulting questions. You know what I'm talking about. So what do I mean by they understand you? I mean that they acted in conformity to your expectations and presumptions and preferences. When someone acts in conformity to your expectations and preferences and presumptions, do you say, oh, they understand me? You might not say that, but you might. There's a picture of another guy getting escorted by the law enforcement agents there, another inmate getting escorted. So I began by saying, have you ever noticed that a sequence of words was intriguing to you? By now, you may be wondering what I meant by terrified arrogance. Terrified arrogance? I don't know what that means. No. Or perhaps it's already quite clear what that means. I have been talking about, I haven't been using the phrase naive or terrified arrogance, but I have been demonstrating some ideas of what might be called terrified arrogance. When someone has naive expectations and presumes that reality will always conform to their expectations, then that can lead to an exposure of the naive expectations as being naive expectations. So when the expectations are revealed as only expectations, then people can feel confusion, terror, panic, shame. I don't want anybody to know that I'm confused or that there was a difference between my expectations and what actually happened. I don't want anybody to know I was surprised. I don't want anybody to know I was confused. So there can be a shame and then terror. How do I hide the shame? How do I distract people? How do I attack people so that they don't notice my lack of confidence? I'm getting ahead. So there's a variety of pictures here of inmates, some of them somewhat famous. Anyway, someone who has naive expectations, which might be most any young person at some point in their life, naive expectations are going to be abundant for any human, pretty much. At various times, there might be a smaller number of naive expectations. Over time, people might learn to be more considerate of the possibility that they have expectations. But really, how people learn about their naive expectations is by confrontations with reality. Challenging confrontations with reality. Surprising, perhaps disturbing, perhaps disruptive. Disruptive to what? Disruptive to your expectations, so you can recognize, wow, that was just an expectation or even a presumption. So people can be worried that others will recognize that their expectations were actually just expectations. Not reliable principles for how life actually goes. Not safe presumptions, but unsafe, naive, and even unexamined presumptions. Unsafe presumptions, naive presumptions, even unconscious presumptions. People can be scared of criticism and punishment. They can be scared of being recognized as confused or scared or surprised. They may shout, I am not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. They may say affirmations over and over like, I am loving and I am brave. And there may be some value to saying affirmations such as those. Or God give me bravery. There can be value in that, right? Could be. However, when someone's been operating from naive expectations and doesn't even want to admit that there's anything, scary going on for them, then why would I pray, right? Pray? I don't need to pray. So in a terrified hysteria, people who have been surprised may condemn whatever event violated their expectations and surprised them. The terrified hysteria is displayed through condemnation and a kind of a vicious, presumptive condemnation. It's a terrified condemnation. It's a hysterical condemnation in some cases. So that terrified person can arrogantly threaten those who do not operate according to their expectations and preferences. They can arrogantly threaten, meaning not being very considerate of who they're threatening and who they are that's issuing the threat and how they're threatening them. They can just arrogantly throw out threats that those who do not operate according to their sacred expectations better stop or else. That's the kind of threat, right? So they can arrogantly threaten those who do not operate according to their expectations. Who? Like the ambulance driver, the prosecutor, and all those stupid law-breaking inmates who laughed at your story of how the people who made the traffic light victimized you. Because the people who made the traffic light did victimize you because they didn't have that thing that said, oh, warning emergency vehicle nearby. Because now that I've seen that they have those in some places, and they didn't have that where I was, and they should have, the traffic light people and the city people and the other people, those are the ones who I'm going to threaten, because if I'm ashamed that my expectations has been revealed as only being expectations, then why not threaten them? I mean, come on. It makes sense, right? Those people who made the traffic light wrong victimized you, or me, or all the people that they victimized by making the traffic light wrong, or not according to our expectations. So, don't those people realize that you were sincere in your expectations? You were sincere, right? You had good intentions. You did not drive into the intersection by accident. It's not like you didn't notice that there was a red light and just drove in when there was a red light. No, you saw a green light. You intentionally drove into the intersection, and you did it on purpose because the light was clearly green. And then all these inmates were laughing at you and taunting you. What was stupid punks, right? You did the right thing. Other people were wrong. You were right. You are still right now, and the other people are still wrong. The ambulance driver, the prosecutor, who else? Those stupid punk inmates who laughed at you. Oh, they were wrong. They're rude. They don't know anything. They don't matter. They don't matter to me. I don't care about what they say, because I don't agree with them. So if I don't agree with someone, then I just say, well, their opinions are just opinions, which could be true. But the judge and the law enforcement officer that make those threats about they're going to put you in jail and stuff, you may want to be attentive to those threats, because those threats might be, those might be real threats. Those might be threats that they're entirely willing and able to carry out, to follow through with. Oh, there's a picture of Henry Rollins looking very pleasant. Well, no, not really. He's kind of looking, I don't know, but I would say he might be looking a bit stressed, maybe a little condescending, maybe just aggressive and, ready to bite your head off, like Ozzy Osbourne did to that one bat. So if there is a condemnation made in hysteria of some past event because of terror, terror. If there's a condemnation made in hysteria of some past event because of terror, could that condemnation be an indicator of arrogance? If there's an acceptance of a past event as surprising, and even as frightening, or even as confusing because it exceeded your expectations, then that would be respect and humility rather than arrogance and contempt, right? So condemning past events is an interesting thing. Acceptance of past events is also a potentially intriguing idea. It might be a revolutionary idea. As some famous guy in that next picture, he's been arrested for something. I think he's an actor. Anyway, I don't know why these people had some kind of legal issues and legal problems. They're probably driving through green lights, and that's, you know, the example I was given about the green lights, that was a joke. It was silly because, like, everybody knows to look and listen and stuff like that, right? They know don't presume and just drive to the intersection. You know, put your phone down, stop texting, stop messing with the radio or the stereo or whatever. Look at the intersection. Are there any cars coming? If so, don't go into it. Stay out of it if the other cars are going through already. And until they're stopped, you know, until it's an empty, safe intersection, you stay out of it. And once it's empty and safe, and then the light is green, then you just go ahead, go right in, go now. So, oh, look, a picture of Marilyn Manson. He's looking so delightful. He's got his mouth open and kind of this, I'm gonna bite. I've already bitten your head off. Kind of look there, I guess. He really likes the really dark red lipstick. Apparently, I think there's another picture of him later on, and he's got more dark red lipstick. Quite a shocking appearance. I think he's trying to get people's attention with his appearance. I don't know if you agree with me or not about that, but let's move on. Now, perhaps you were sufficiently clear by now about what I meant by terrified arrogance. Note that I'm not asserting that there is any other kind of arrogance except for terrified arrogance. I'm just saying there's a way possibly to recover from terrified arrogance, even terrified arrogance about mainstream hysterias. And I haven't really said a lot about any of those yet, have I? No, I've just been talking about traffic. So, another inmate that looks kind of mean. He looks kind of pissed off. Someone else is to blame. He might be resentful. He might be arrogant. He might be, I don't deserve to be here. Maybe he doesn't, but he is here, or he is where he is. Well, where he was when the picture was taken, you know what I mean? So arrogance is a pattern of behavior to do what? What's the function of it? What's the function of arrogance? It's a pattern of behavior to hide a lack of confidence. Arrogance is a pattern of behavior to hide a lack of confidence. There's a background of private terror that someone's lack of confidence will be recognized. So arrogant boasting is emphasized socially. It's put all over the place. And like, you know, maybe some confrontational and adversarial threats and displays of aggression. There's a background of private terror, though, that someone's lack of confidence will be recognized. So arrogant boasting is emphasized socially. The perceived threat that is presented by possible skeptics and possible critics can be targeted for ridicule and abuse. I'll rephrase that. So anyone who's a possible critic and skeptic, anybody who doesn't consistently and loyally agree with whoever is in question, those possible skeptics and possible critics can present a perceived threat. In other words, they may spark worry, paranoia, fear. They can also, after they're perceived as possible skeptics and critics and viewed as a perceived threat that might reveal a lack of confidence, well, then they can be targeted for ridicule and abuse. They can be targeted for aggression, verbal aggression, or any other kind of aggression, physical aggression. They can be targeted. Others can be repulsed or pushed away by the harshness, the aggression, the bullying, and the coercion of the arrogance, or the one displaying arrogance. Everyone else, all those possible threats of possible critics and possible cynics, possible critics, I meant to say, all those possible threats can be pushed away, repulsed, will condemn them, pushed away by the harshness, the aggression, passive aggression, physical aggression, whatever, the bullying, the condescendence, and even outright physical coercion or threats of violence, threats of other kinds of punishment. Why? To hide a lack of confidence. Is that possible? That is possible. Arrogance could be a behavior to hide a lack of confidence. Pride is calm. True pride is calm and confident. Arrogance is not confident. Arrogance is insecure. It's afraid. It's terrified. Terrified arrogance is a pattern of behavior to hide a lack of confidence, because there is a sense of a lack of confidence and a concern that other people may recognize that lack of confidence, and then things would go poorly. So in order to hide the lack of confidence and prevent the thing that one is afraid of in terms of the lack of confidence being recognized by other people, and then those other people embarrassing the arrogant one by making reference to their lack of confidence and their insecurity. Well, that's to be avoided. The terrified arrogant is taking actions to preempt an embarrassing development. Their lack of confidence being openly recognized and referenced socially by one person, by several people, etc. Russell Brand, he's a popular comedian amongst some people. I find him intelligent and clever and generally unappealing and irrelevant. And next to him, speaking of generally irrelevant, there is a relatively famous fella named Charles Manson, a picture of Charles Manson, and below that we see, oh, what is that, like 42 years of pictures of Charlie Manson. So those who dared to display skepticism in regard to your sacred expectations and idolatries, what punishment or response would you have for those people who dare to display skepticism and criticism, or who you presume might in the future display skepticism and criticism? So you might as well just punish them as if they already had, because they're potential threats, right, in the future. So what to do? How about systematically target them for defamation and sabotage? Your resentment of them is deemed to you, so I made a mistake. Your resentment of them is deemed by you to be justified. Certainly it's not a sign of insecurity or lack of confidence. Don't be insulting. The only reason you resent them is because they deserve it. Now, what kind of mode is that? Terrified, arrogance, hysteria. That's right. That's what kind of mode I was demonstrating. Those who might display skepticism, or who do display skepticism, systematically target them for sabotage and defamation. Preemptively assassinate their character, or just assassinate them. Your resentment of them is deemed by you to be justified. Not, certainly not. No, not even possible that it's a sign of any kind of insecurity, because you are confident and calm in your dreams. Or maybe you are in reality. Maybe you're starting to think, is it all that big a deal to, maybe there are some occasions where it makes a lot of sense to hide one's lack of confidence. Okay, maybe there are situations where it makes a lot of sense to acknowledge a lack of confidence, even to ask for supervision, help, assistance, support, direction. But if you are resenting other people, that in your own opinion, that's always justified. Nobody resents other people without having a sense of being justified in their resentment, right? And you're not jealous of those other people that you resent and have contempt for and are condemning and stuff and are scared of. Not scared of them. I mean, that you're righteously angry and resentful at their improper, unexpected patterns of behavior, right? And you're not jealous of them. That's silly. No. You're not jealous of them. You're not overreacting. No. That's hysterical. You're not overreacting. No. You're not upset. No, you're not upset. You're just standing up for what is right. Right. You were just standing up for what is right, and it is also quite pathetic that so many other people are so complacent and naive, unlike you. All those people that are complacent and naive, they are insulting and disturbing and stupid punks. They remind me of this one ambulance driver and this one prosecutor and all these people that were in the jail, and they laughed at the story, and it was so, and they must be of such low intelligence, and I'm not upset, and you are not upset. I'm not that kind of person, and you are calm and confident, so there's no terror or arrogance or hysteria. Huh. Oh, but there's a picture of some protesters there to go, the Guantanamo Bay, shut down Guantanamo Bay, the protesters, and hey, it's all right to protest. They're protesting, I suppose, in front of the Department of Justice or something. It looks like a Greek temple there. What does that say? If I look closely, the National... Is that what that says? The National... I can't read it. It's too faint. Oh, National Gallery. Okay. Oh, it's an art gallery. They're just into art. I thought they were like into the Department of Justice and stuff. But that art gallery, it reminds me of, it's got all those big columns and that triangle at the top over the big columns, right? The columns, and then the triangle at the top. It reminds me of a Greek temple for the goddess Diana or Athena or Demeter or one of those Greek or Roman or Egyptian goddesses. Are, what's the other one called? Justitia or Portia. I'm getting off the subject. All right, so protesters, they are always justified in their resentments and their contempts and their being upset. Like, upset is one way to be. Your expectations were probably violated or you wouldn't be upset. But, and you probably care about some issue or you wouldn't be upset. Because you don't get upset if a insignificant expectation is violated. You don't get upset. It's only when there's an important expectation that you get upset, right? And you're only resentful when people deserve it, right? And you have a good reason to, right? Or, you think you do at least. I mean, maybe your reason's inaccurate, but you don't double check your facts because you're upset. And, it's a form of hysteria and terror. So you're not double checking stuff. You're just being arrogant, pushing people away, right? Specific people or all people, whatever. So anyway, now so far we've been using an example about driving into an intersection and nearly colliding or even actually colliding with the speeding ambulance. So that was an example that I just made up for educational purposes. Next we'll talk about a few actual cases, not actually in this video, but if you continue this exploration with me, we'll talk about a few actual cases in which I've been arrogant myself. Yes, indeed, it has happened even recently. So let's also talk about mainstream hysterias. What exactly is meant by that? What are some examples? How do those mainstream hysterias form? What are they? How do they form? And how could they relax? Or do they relax? Do they relax? Let's see if we can even produce a full recovery from any terrified arrogance that I might still have. Because I certainly would not want to imply that someone as mature as you could still have anything left to learn ever. Maybe some of your expectations will eventually no longer be accurate or precise. Is that you? I thought your expectations were rock solid. So this will be about me. This will be about me. Let's see if I can produce a full recovery from any terrified arrogance that I might still have. Because that would be great if I could find something that I could, learn from or learn about. Because that, if I have an expectation that's wrong and that is interesting and important to me, wouldn't it be great to update it so it's more in conformity with reality? Instead of trying to make reality conform to expectations. That sounds kind of exhausting. Could get frustrating, huh? So, I don't mean to be hysterical by even bringing up the subject that you might still have something left to learn. I don't know. You probably are solid expectations, never need to be revised, I'm sure. But just in case I have any, I'll check it out. If you're interested in joining me in that exploration, then take some action to let me know. You could, if you'd like the video, I don't know if that would count. I think it would be like a comment where you say, I'm interested in knowing more, or tell me more, or maybe a private message. It doesn't have to be somewhere that people would see it. But if you send me a message on this YouTube page for the video, then I would have to approve it before it goes public, I believe. So feel free to send me a private message even through that comment field, and if you let me know that it's meant to be a private message, I won't approve it and make it public. But you can let me know, how to reach you. That would be for people who have a a YouTube account. If you have a Facebook account, then you can send me your Facebook ID. I do use Facebook. You can send me your Skype ID. If you use Skype, certainly you can send me a phone number if you're in North America, or have a phone number in North America. Well, there's a few other pictures in the article, but I think I'll skip all of those. Just to note, of course, there was the very beautiful people picture of Marilyn Manson there, showing the dark red lipstick once again. And look there, did you know that Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, still believes in global warming, at least according to that billboard? Isn't that reassuring? Because, he really understands you. If you believe in global warming, then you know, there's another guy right there who, has the same expectations and stuff that you do, which, that's a great friend, right? Yeah. All right, so as I said, if you're interested in continuing this exploration, we will be looking into logical psychology and really some alternatives. At some point, I will make reference to hysterical psychology. And what other kinds of psychology? Maybe institutional psychology, because people can learn to repeat a model without comprehension of the model, or without a real grounding in how that conceptual model corresponds or doesn't correspond to reality. So a lot of conceptual models are close to reality and close enough to be useful, but that doesn't mean they're always relevant, So sometimes a certain conceptual model is really useful, and sometimes it's irrelevant. That doesn't mean it's universally worthless. It's just worthless in specific contexts. So there's a logical psychology, there's hysterical psychology, there's a variety of different kinds of psychologies that we could reference. For now, this was an introduction to the idea of terrified arrogance. And don't come at me like thinking that, I still have something to learn. Oh wait, I'm gonna just shift to respect right now and humility. Maybe curiosity even. Maybe I do have something left to learn. Maybe some of the expectations that I now have, I don't even know I have now, and I'm willing and open to update them, revise them, confirm them, clarify them. And if that means releasing mainstream hysterias, whatever that means, I might be open to that too. Well, I've been JR, and I've been pleased to share this time with you. I hope you've enjoyed this. As I said, you are welcome to comment and let me know if you'd like to continue the exploration through. Mostly what I've done is little discussion groups, conference calls, but there's a variety of ways that you can participate actively or just listen to one of those calls or have some other kind of interaction and have some benefit for yourself. Or you could just like the video, thumbs up it, that kind of thing, or all that. Share it if you wish. Thanks again for your attention and your interest.